Hi, everyone. It's Stephanie with the patient story. I hope you're doing well wherever you're joining us from. I'm thrilled to introduce our incredible guest today, who's actually joining us from the UK, I believe. And
Yeah.
that is Tamsin. Tamsin, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Stephanie.
First of all, as people will notice, you're joining us not from the US, right? Where are you joining us from?
Nottingham in the United Kingdom. So yeah, yeah,
Amazing. I have not been out there. I'll have to get some, recommendations from you after this. But
yeah,
before we start, I love to ask folks to describe themselves. I know you were diagnosed with CLL, but you
yeah.
are so much more than your diagnosis. So if you could introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Okay. My name's Tamsin, and basically, I'm 48 now. I was 47 when I was diagnosed, I think, and I'm a mum. I've got two teenage daughters that are now 16 and soon to be 15. So it was just a year ago I was diagnosed. Married. I've got my own. We've got our own recruitment business, so we work in property sector recruitment, and yeah, and I've got a wonderful support network of friends and family and everything. So yeah, that's me, I think. Yeah,
You summed it up well in a nutshell. I know that's a hard thing to do. It's a tall ask for people to
yeah,
just say everything about themselves in such a short period, but that was great. So thank you. And I know family. We'll talk about that
yeah,
in the conversation because support is so important. So let's jump right in.
yeah,
We're going to rewind. I know that you referenced that it was back in 2019. You can think back and I was fatigued and there were things you saw, but really it
yeah.
was in 2020 when there was more of an accumulation of noticing, hey, these symptoms of things happening. What were those red flags for you?
I was really out of breath. I was feeling dizzy and sick every morning. So when I got up and went on a dog walk, I felt really nauseous. But I just kind of got used to it. So, but the tiredness and palpitations, it was all, it all just started coming on. But I thought, you know what? I thought maybe it's my age. Maybe this is it. I don't know, because I've always been really fit and active. So I thought it was really weird. So that's why I started going to the doctor about, everything that was happening. But it was over a period of time. But I kind of got used to it.
I love that you bring that up because in your timeline, you say March 2020 is when you started feeling really the symptoms. It wasn't until October really when you started to go check things out with the doctor. And I think that's a very common, we explain things away, right?
Yeah,
I'm just tired at work is busy, it's my age, whatever it might be.
yeah.
So you do go to the doctor. Could you summarize sort of that time period? Because I know you end up going to do a lot of different sort of tests to figure out what was going on.
Yeah. So when I went to the doctor, obviously they were looking for something. They were concerned about something because also I had low iron, I had low ferritin, so I was anemic for probably about 6 months. So they started by looking for, they were looking for cancer, weren't they? So they did an endoscopy, a colonoscopy, then they sent me for a chest X-ray. And then because I had the palpitations and everything, I went private because some of it was during COVID as well. So it was really difficult to get in and see the doctor, and it was a bit funny. It's a bit of a funny time.
When you describe the heart palpitations, like how bad were they? Could you describe what they were feeling like?
Yeah, I work in recruitment, so it's quite stressful. And I always used to get up at 4:30. I'd start working at 4:30, go to the gym at 6:30. So sometimes I'd have really difficult, you can have difficult conversations with candidates or clients, but I remember having one particular candidate that, it was a difficult situation, and literally, I had to lie down on the floor after I got off the phone because it was like my whole chest was coming in and out, and I just didn't know what was wrong. I just thought it's really weird, really, really unusual, but I just kind of, you just get on with it.
It's very easy to think, here's what's going on with my life, and then draw a line to whatever we're feeling, right? It's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine. So you did get, the colonoscopy, the chest x-ray. First of all, what was going through your head? Because doctors are trying to figure out what's going on. You don't have an answer. It's
Yeah.
hard, right?
When I was waiting for the colonoscopy and the endoscopy, it was during COVID. So it was taking forever. So I ended up paying for it and going private because I was so frightened. And then the day of the colonoscopy and that, the night before you have to drink like loads and loads of fluid, which made me feel really ill. And I can just remember thinking, I was lying in bed and I felt really ill, really sick. And I was thinking, gosh, oh, I hope I haven't got cancer. I don't feel, I didn't feel well at all. And I was thinking, oh, it can't be, that's what I was thinking. But I just felt so awful. I was really scared that it was going to be that. And then they didn't find anything.
It's interesting. So you were out of breath, you were dizzy, you had these incredible heart palpitations. How did they explain here, you need to have a colonoscopy? What were they looking for? What did they suspect?
Well, because I was anemic, I think they were looking for a cancer mass. So they were either looking in my stomach or in my, colon. So they were looking for an actual mass of cancer. So that's why they wanted to eliminate. That's what they say, isn't it? We're going to put you on a pathway, but we want to eliminate, make sure it's nothing.
And then the great news, the colonoscopy was clear. They didn't find anything.
Yeah.
But why? But then they said you were still feeling things, right? So then they sent you to a chest x-ray. Is that right?
Yeah, they sent me to a chest x-ray. It was all kind of the same time. Yes, there's nothing on the colonoscopy. I was so pleased. And, I had a little label. So I stuck it up on my board where my work is and the picture of my girls. And so if I had a bad day or didn't feel well, I used to say, oh, well, thank God I haven't got cancer. And I'd look at my little label and say, oh, it's all okay. So then they sent me for the chest x-ray. And again, that came back clear as well. So I was like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. And then and then they basically just that was it.
I think it's so interesting because, that period of time, of course, getting diagnosed is incredibly overwhelming and traumatic. But when you have things you're feeling in your body, but you don't have something to connect it to, a reason, an explanation, that can be pretty awful too, right?
Yeah, I didn't know what was going wrong with me. And then you just think, what, everyone's life's carrying on. I've just got to carry on. I carried on, I was still working full time and I was training at the gym all the time and I was really pushing myself. So, like people would say, oh, well, she can't really be poorly because she wouldn't be able to get up at 4:30 in the morning, wouldn't be able to do the gym, wouldn't be able to work. But I was exhausted and I thought, none of you actually know how I'm feeling, but everyone says, oh, you can't possibly be,
Sick. Like you can't be, there's nothing wrong with you. Look at, you can work out, you're fine.
Yeah.
So we fast forward now. So you finished, the colonoscopy, the x-ray, these other, tests through the fall into the winter. You're still feeling these symptoms. And so you went to, did you go to a cardiologist? You went to someone to figure it out. What happened there?
They put a heart monitor on me for a week and I was, they didn't really see anything that was untoward. There was only one little blip. So they said, you know what, you're probably okay. You're probably okay. So I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. I still feel really not good, but I've had all those checks. I must actually, maybe it is just my lifestyle, the way I get up early, train, work all the time, kids, everything.
It is, again, so incredible how you can just power through and you get the messaging and, the doctors are trying, they find nothing. They have specialties. So they have a sort of their focus. If it doesn't fall in their focus, then it's like, well, you look okay to me. So you move on with your life. You're on iron tablets. You finish them, in February of 2021, but then in May, so this is months later. I mean, this is over a year after you really started feeling those first symptoms. Describe the pain you were feeling then.
I mean, I was still really tired and felt nauseous and all the rest of it. But then I got my lymph nodes up in my groin and I just put it down to overtraining at the gym. And also I had a pain in my right shoulder. So I did have a steroid injection in my right shoulder to get rid of the pain in there. And the pain in my groin, I went to the doctors, obviously, and they felt all the lymph nodes were up. But
Could you describe that pain in your shoulder and the groin area? What kind of pain were you feeling?
It was in my shoulder blade, and it was just like, I thought I had been overtraining, and it was just constant. It was painful the whole time. It was just always there, like a dull ache, and it hurt whenever I moved it. And that's where the cancer was, in my bone marrow in that shoulder. So that was weird. And then in the groin, it was just like hard. It was really hard, and my stomach was well, I was really quite light, but my stomach was pretty rock hard as well. But the lymph nodes were up in my stomach as well.
So at this time, I mean, truly, you have this laundry list of symptoms that you've been feeling, and then there's more coming onto the list. So in this period of time, then you had this pain in the right shoulder, you had pain in your groin area.
Yeah.
Your body was feeling weird, hard areas. You had night sweats. How long did those go for?
That was really only very short. And, again, I got these night sweats, and I thought, oh gosh, maybe it's because we've changed the duvet. Is it my age? All these things. So probably only about 4 weeks of night sweats, I think. So it was very quick. That was really, right at the last bit.
And then you had also lost weight inexplicably, right? About 14 pounds in a period of, you said, 6 to 8 weeks. That's a very short amount of time, especially for someone your size. And how did you explain that one?
Well, I because I've been doing lots of weights and everything, I thought, I had dropped a little bit of weight, and then the rest of it came off. And then I can remember going to Cornwall to see my sister, and we'd eaten loads of chocolate and ice cream and fish and chips and everything. And then I came back and weighed in, and I was 7.5 stone. So I thought, what, these scales are broken. I literally thought they were broken. And people were saying to me, gosh, I'd had some work photos, and they said, blimey, you're really skinny. What have you been doing? And I said, well, I've just been working out loads. I'm really tired. I've been working, at the gym and working hard. So I just, but yeah, I was really skinny, and, it was, everything was kind of, it wasn't right. I didn't feel good. It didn't feel right.
And I think there's a message there. Over a period of time, we get used to explaining things away, but really something keeps telling us, the body's communicating to us.
Something's wrong.
Like, pay attention, something's going on. And, you were getting checked out. So you were trying to do what you could. Finally, in June, you go and get another blood test.
Yeah.
And that was the one that became big. Please describe what happened then.
So I went in to see my doctor, and it's a really lovely doctor that I've had for years. And I said, you know what, I am so tired. And he said, well, Tam, with your lifestyle, who wouldn't be? And I said, yeah, I know, I'm really tired, but my lymph nodes are up. So he felt those. And I said, and I just want a full blood count. I want to... And he said, okay, I think you'll be absolutely fine. I said, yeah, me too, because life was so good. My business, we'd just moved into office accommodation. I'd recruited a new person. So business was amazing. The girls were good. My husband, family's good. I said, I know I'm going to be okay. I was absolutely sure. So he felt in my groin. He felt them up there. He felt under my armpit. Didn't feel them there. Didn't feel them in my stomach. And he said, I think you'll be okay. And literally I ran out of the doctor's surgery and thought, I know I'm going to be okay. And then the next day I was at work, and then I went to view a property, and that's when I got the call from the doctor's surgery telling me to go in straight away to pick up a letter to go to hospital that night. So that I got the call, and I said, oh, I'm really busy. I'm actually at a property, I'm really busy. And she said, well, you've got to come into the doctor's surgery now. And I was like, oh, okay. Why? I felt really irritated, because I didn't want to have a call like this, because I didn't, I wasn't expecting it. And she said, you've got to come in now because you've got to go into hospital. You've got to go to QMC and they've got to rehydrate you because you've got something shown that you've got hypercalcemia. And I was like, oh, okay. And I thought, well, what's that? And I said, do I have to come now? Because I'm at this. And she said, yeah, you've got to come in now. And then you've got to go to hospital. And I said, what, straight to hospital? And she went, yeah, you've got to go straight to hospital. And I said, well, shall I wait for my husband to, I just couldn't quite believe it. It all just seemed, and she went, you've really just got to check in and get on your hydration as soon as you can. So I was like, oh, okay. So I drove straight to the doctor's. I saw a really lovely doctor. She said, I've got this letter for you to go to hospital. And so I took the letter and I literally drove to hospital. I rang my husband and said, I'm going to hospital. I'm going to acute admissions or meet me there in a bit, or I'll ring you in a bit. And that was how kind of quick it was. It was just, bonkers.
I mean, and you're under the impression that you're going because of this hypercalcemia. You're not really quite sure what's going on. You're just following these instructions. Were you thinking about, oh, something's happening, or were you sort of repressing it and just going through the motions?
I mean, I think I must have been so frightened. I can remember ringing a friend on the way to hospital and I just said, I don't know why they're getting me in so quick. But I didn't know what it was for. I mean, I hadn't done, I don't like to Google anything, but I'd been driving. So I was going literally from the doctor straight into town. I was really worried because I thought there must be something really wrong with me. And then also it was one of my best friends' 50th birthday and we were supposed to be going to Wales. So I was thinking, oh gosh, I had a weird feeling. I just thought there is something really wrong with me. I'm not going to make it. I know I'm not going to make it to go away. And then I checked in and then they put me on the drip, to get me rehydrated.
And then you ended up having to stay overnight. So when you were going there, were you under the impression that, oh, I'm just going to go and they're going to do something, I'm going to go home?
Yeah.
I
thought I was going to come home. I thought I was going to come home and then they said, oh, we're going to put you on a drip for like 12 hours. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be here overnight. I haven't got anything on me. So I had to ring Mike and the girls and they brought my suitcase in and they found me. It was like, it's like, an admissions ward. So there were about 30 people in there. I saw a doctor and a whole load of, trainee baby doctors. They did an examination of me. And then they said, we're going to run a load of tests tomorrow. So I thought, I still didn't really know what I was in for. I kind of knew. I'm sure they must have said we're going to run some tests to see if it is, what it is. But yeah, it was surreal. It was like someone else's life.
And so you don't really remember that. You just remember going through the motions, not really hearing what are they testing me for. I just think it might be something bad. And so the following day, you actually got your diagnosis. Can you walk us through what happened?
In the morning, they just came in and said, we're going to test you, do your bloods, put you through a scanner. We're looking for, blood cancer or lymphoma. Or, I was just in this bed with the curtains around me and I just thought, oh my goodness. And then I told my family and everything, oh, this is what they're doing. And then and then they did all the tests and then they said they'd get back to me in the morning because I'd gone and had these tests quite quickly. So I thought by lunchtime they'd let me know and they hadn't. And then at 3:30 in the afternoon, the doctor came in, a female doctor, and she said that, we've run in fact, I'd been on my own the whole time and I was really fed up because I hadn't had my results and I actually knew someone that worked at Queen's Medical Centre. So I texted him. He was a surgeon and he came down and sat on my bed and talked to me for a bit. So that was nice. And then she came through and she just said, we've run your bloods and you have got blood cancer, and we need to carry on testing you, so we're going to be keeping you in. Is there anyone that you'd like to ring? So I said, yeah, I think I'll call my husband now then. So I did. So it was just like, but in a way you can't sugarcoat it, and I am really direct, and I like things in black and white, and I'm not, I'd rather, what can you say? It was just like, and I think the first thing I said is, how long have I got? Have I got 3 months? Have I got 6 months? Because I'd never heard of blood cancer. I didn't know. I mean, they didn't know what cancer it was. They didn't say, they said they've got to do lots more tests on me, bone marrow and all the rest of it. So they didn't tell me what it was. So I had no idea. And she kind of said, oh, it's not like that, but we're going to, we'll get on with everything. We'll transfer you from this hospital to City Hospital, and then you'll be an inpatient, and they'll get on with everything. So that's what happened.
Wow. Just trying to soak that all in terms of your experience, all the ups and downs. You finally, after going to so many doctors and finding, oh, nothing's wrong with you, and you come and this thing happens in 24 hours. It's extremely expedited. How did it feel, Tamsin, in that moment? So you had thought, gosh, I hope this isn't cancer, a couple different times or many times.
Yeah.
You're being told finally, you do have cancer. It's not what you think. It's a kind of blood cancer. You don't know much about it, but you're being told this is what it is. Can you bring us back to what you were thinking and feeling?
Oh, it's so horrible. I spoke to, I don't know initially what I thought. I didn't believe that. I don't know. I just didn't know what to expect, because as soon as you get a cancer diagnosis, you think that's it, don't you? But they were really good when they moved me over to the other hospital, and I met one consultant, and then I met my consultant. So then it felt better.
Thank you for sharing. It's conjuring up emotions for me too. I understand what you mean. You hear cancer and it's just, you think about your life and your family, don't you?
Yeah. And my girls. I think that was the hardest.
You do strike me as someone who's a go-getter, someone who, has a plan. And so in that moment, it must have been really difficult, because you're left sort of having to hold this, and all you know about cancer is probably what you've heard and seen in movies and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's hard, right? Before you have a plan, that period of time is really difficult. Can you share anything that helped get you through that time? Because, I think it's really hard when you don't have an answer. It's also really hard when you have an answer, a diagnosis, but you don't know what you can do about it yet.
The in-between stage. I mean, you know what? It was just getting through every day. I mean, the morning when I slept in for one night, and I can remember speaking to a friend, and I FaceTimed her, and she said to me, oh my God, she said, you look awful. She said, will you just do your hair and get your makeup on and crack on with it? And I thought, you know what, God, that's it. I can never be a mess. I mean, obviously some, I've had allergic reactions, so I have looked horrendous, after I initially had obinutuzumab, but I just told myself I've just got to get on with it every day, and I've got to put a smile on my face and just crack on with it, like with everything, when bad things happen, and I've got to do that, and that's really what I've done. That's what I've done. And for my girls, I didn't want them to see, I'm not going to go to pot over it, I'm not going to go to pot, I'm not going to fall apart, I can't fall apart because of it. And I didn't want, at the time, my whole life, so I couldn't go into work. So my husband had to hand his notes in at his job so he could run the business. So overnight I had, because I had to stay in hospital, I had to suddenly let everything go. And all of a sudden, the most important thing in the world was when they let me out at the first weekend before they did the following week of tests, was just seeing the girls and coming home, and, you know, family, my other half, my dad, you know, his partner, and talking to family, you know, and it just, you suddenly realize what is really important. You know, I've always strived for, I'm really competitive at work. I'm competitive in lots of different ways, and I strive for more all the time. And then all of a sudden it came down to what's really important, you know.
I'm really grateful that you're saying this, because I remember feeling the same way when I was diagnosed. And then that was a few years ago, and how quickly for me it's dissipated. And I'm so happy to hear that message again, because it's true. It's so crystal clear, right? What's really important, what you should be dedicating your energy to,
Yeah.
and what's less important.